This video will show how to use the autopilot of the A320 in order to capture the ILS approach to a required runway. It will use manual inputting of information into the autopilot and will only use the FMC in order to input the data for the ILS frequency and runway heading. Speeds and flap setting are for guidance only. This video is going to show how we use the autopilot manually set to lock onto the ILS system of a required runway for landing. In this example I'm using Cardiff Airport, and the aircraft is presently flying at 120 degrees at 4,000 feet and presently doing 220 knots. So I am presently flying parallel to Cardiff Airport, which has a runway heading that I wish to land on of 301. That is runway 30 at Cardiff Airport, 301 degrees. The first thing is to input some information into the FMC. So if I look down at the FMC and I zoom into it, I'm going to enter some details onto the scratch pad here. I'm going to select RadNav, radio navigation, and here is the ILS and frequency and course. I have looked up previously in the databases, and the ILS frequency for Cardiff is 110.70. That has now been entered into the scratch pad. If I click the button next to the ILS frequency here, it will input that frequency into the scratch pad. It now wants me to put a course. I know from the data that the heading is 301. I now enter that 301 into this one by clicking the button here. I now have the data required for my landing runway. Now I need to look at the left-hand side of the autopilot features. I have here a rotating button, Plan, Arc, Nav, VOR, LS, that is ILS. I'm going to use the mouse buttons to switch this to the LS position. You'll notice that this display changes. I'll do that back again to ARC and back to LS. Just to the bottom left of it is another button, LS. If I now click that button so that it becomes illuminated, you'll see that this display here has now changed. I now have my ILS bars visible, and I also have my glide slope indicator visible. So now looking at the main display, I can see my speed and heading displayed here, and I can see my required ILS and glide slope display here. I'm now going to reduce my speed to 200 knots. You can hear the engine reducing in power, and I'm going to take my height down, or my altitude down, to 2,000 feet at a rate of descent of minus 1,000 feet a minute. The aircraft is now slowly descending.
12 o'clock and 7 miles.
Now, in order to intercept the ILS, I need to intercept it at an angle of no more than 45 degrees to the final heading. An ideal heading will be 30 degrees to that final heading. The heading is 301. So if I now make a turn to a heading of 330, still descending to 2,000 feet at this point. Doing a gentle turn to 330 degrees.
Alright, we'll just take 19 to the left if I can get free.
Yeah, we can stack up in there, that's fine.
If you're going to follow traffic about...
So the heading is now set for 330. The aircraft is making a gentle turn to that heading. Now, as the aircraft turns, the indicating compass is also rotating. This is my present heading. This is the heading that I have set. And this is the heading of the runway, which is 301, which I just put the data into the FMC for. The bar on the right is showing me that the runway is presently slightly to the right of my present position, and that I'm going to have to turn further left to intercept this centre line. I now need to watch these two indicators. That is the ILS localizer indicator and the glide slope indicator. Now, in this example, to give myself just a little bit more time and to recheck my position, I'm going to alter my heading to 350 degrees to give myself a slightly wider turn into my final approach.
3442, American 1720, get in. ISO 645, it's going to maintain 3,000.
So my final runway is now still to my left, and the ILS is to my left and slightly ahead of me.
3630, become approach.
I'm going to monitor this indicating area here.
Number 3630.
As I close in on the ILS approach, just double check. We have this left hand button switched to LS. I have the LS indicator illuminated. I have my ILS bars visible, and I have my glide slope diamond visible. I am presently at 2,000 feet and at 200 knots. The autopilot is set for speed, altitude and heading. I'm now going to reduce my speed to 175. Ready for the final turn. And as my speed decreases, I'm going to set flaps 1. So on this indicator here, flaps 1.
Iceland 645, you're 10 miles from down, be cleared ILS runway 19 left.
Flaps 1 set.
Cleared ILS 19 left.
You'll probably now make out Cardiff Airport is here, slightly to my left and ahead of me. Now, as I near my ILS intercept, I'm going to take my heading down to 330 once again. So I've now got approximately 30-degree turn to my final heading. The ILS bars are now moving. I'm going to click localizer. The autopilot will now track the localizer to the center line. I'm going to reduce my speed in this final run to 165 and increase flaps to 2. The autopilot is now tracking this localizer beam and will get those 3 lines centered. Now we need to watch this dial. This is going to be our glide slope indication, and when we land this will be centered and that dial will be centered. Now that we are lined up on the localizer beam, I'm now going to select on the autopilot bottom right hand approach. You'll notice that this is now showing speed, altitude, localizer and glide slope all operational. It is also showing category 3 landing on a single autopilot.
Okay, great. So,
My glide slope indicator is coming to the center bar. I'm now going to reduce my speed to 145 and increase flaps to flaps 3.
6 miles ahead, caution equipment, runway 1.
Now I'm going to put gear down and wait for 3 green lights here.
Heavy note, altitude on the press. Delta 550, Zulu Alpha, the continuous straight ahead via Bravo and monitor ground flight 9.
Zulu Alpha, Bravo, monitor ground
3
flight 9
greens.
today, Delta 550.
I'm going to check that the spoilers are set to armed, which will ensure that they will automatically deploy as I touch down. I've paused the flight at this point. Take the external view. The runway is now directly ahead of me. My gear is down. My flaps are down. I am reducing my speed. The spoilers have been armed. I'm ready for a touchdown. I'm going to aim in this occasion to have a touchdown speed of around 145 knots. If you wish, you can set the auto brake for 1, 2 or 3. I will leave that on this particular occasion. So I'm 145 speed and I'm going to increase flaps to full, and now the final landing will be almost automatic to the point of touchdown. Listen to the call-outs, follow the instructions, apply reverse thrust and brake as required. Centre here, centre here.
400, 200, 100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard,
3.9 now.
Nose wheel down, reverse thrust. Watch my speed here, 180 knots.
12 Bravo Quebec, and the altimeter is 299.
5 rings. Engines back to idle.
Bravo, good day.
We'll just watch a replay of that landing, and it's worth noting that as you touch down and you pull the throttle to reverse, you will find the autopilot automatically switches off and you will then get a warning bleep. That's just reminding you that the autopilot is no longer in operation. Simply cancel the warning by pressing the flashing red button in front of you. Rear wheels down, nose wheel down, reverse thrust, and bring the aircraft to a controlled stop, engines back to idle.